Nsem-Pii TV nie.
Yama atiefo enyina akwaba ene enwumre yi ede mo ba Nsem-Pii TV na ensem ahodo a egu yapon so ene enwumre yi ene yabobo bia no a Nsem-Pii TV yede bi eba abesomo na watimi ehu ensem a ekoso ewo oman konkon Ghana omiafo Asenso Boakye MP ede ma amanfo butu Bantama na abusia wode nsem bi abesoma John Mahama and Nsem-Pii TV. Sansami yedi bi babesomo no wahu ensem a Asenso Boakye wode bi asoma John Mahama gonjani de shi konkron anase president ya owo oman konkron Ghana ha na ede na John Mahama koka ya Asenso Boakye obi a won pede ho kasa watimu ayina no anase wono so atimi ato nsem bi ede asoma no atiefo beka ya Asenso Boakye na dan kwakofo ado kwan abenso no ana ne bmreso no sorry na wono ana na eye minister of roads and highways enti se eba no Ghana ya kwan mu ana Ghana akwan ho nsensem dia na tese owura no woni hu abakwasan bie pa tese ministry ho no watena ho acheye na yebeka ya na sentem ena goja ni de share John Mahama wotim ekoko piem ewo esirimantam ho na wotim kodi dwumadi bi ho na eho ere tu dwa sesei na ban a eye NDC amayeko aban aba no Ghana kwan bia no wo mbaba ye de fe no eye road dualization na yese kwan no chese car be enum nam ha na car be enum na ha wo se de titiru eye from Kumasi etu enkran de no e na mbaba ye na chese Ghana akwantufo ehu atimu atowo mo na sansem boyi e no wura Asenso Boakye kan say no say sena John Mahama kan no ase wo ka say Ghana any road bia anase woni double road anase road dualization no aban bia nya bi wo Ghana hada wo see won fa abasobode ema MPP amayeko no na won ka say Juma pa MPP na na dan kwakofo ado ene ye kwakofo ye no wo mo NDC say die wo mo se wo maba wo mba bejaye abro no na road dualization na MPP abiri bia wo ba aban mu a omo ye dura na NDC ba watimu atwato no afi wedie wo mo eba be yebi anase wo mo eba betoa enyuma pa eye MPP amayeko no eye owu Asenso Boakye kyeremu se enyuma pa MPP amayeko eba kofo eye na wo share road dualization ase ewo man konkon Ghana ha na ekwan ababia na traffic ewo kese wo Ghana ha ebi no eye circle to Achimota nsewom nsewom enkokọ ene adwuso kwan a papa kofo ehyehyɛ ne kama na wotim tete sa kwan num na 2008 ye to abatia MPP amayeko no na NDC fo betena so emfie wotwe womantimu anye even single road dualization na woman konkon Ghana ha no eno ho asem na okana na wo say road dualization na woman konkon Ghana ha no ye MPP amayeko no da yeson na se wohwe Ghana kwan bia eye road dualization na se double road a wo kwa kwan car 4 nam ha 5 nam ha ya ni nyina eye MPP amayeko no na ati mu aye wo say yem papa eye nana arodan kwakofo ado ba aye no wo be hye bukina adwuma John Mahama woni the late Fifi Atamis eja to wo emfie wotwe no ya pa nana arodan kwakofo ado epenso no woto aso wo say wo hwe ofanko to ensewom kwan na ye bisa anase wo bisa John Mahama say eye de wo say eye adwuma pa MPP amayeko na aye na aye fe na West Africa ha nyina no saa kwan no ebi ni baabi abiem enti wo pese nka John Mahama eka no wo kasi so say kwan fa na nado dan kwakofo ado na penso kwa na Ghana ye hu asphalt NDC amayeko penso the title John Mahama ekire Ghana fo nyina say waye Ghana kwan nyina a wodi green book ebeto ho na enso green book no yekohwe mu no na Ghana kwan a wono se waye no ebia eye futuru abusia Asenso Boakye say MPP amayeko road dualization no wo pese John Mahama kase wo ba beto aso na won kase ebi ni Ghana ha ya wo mu NDC amayeko no ene be hye saa dwumadi na se wo say ekwan papa bia ewo man konkon Ghana ha ene Ghana akwan a afa no ntuma pa afira na ene Ghana yehu asphalt na enye sapete se de NDC amayeko emre bi baaye na omoye kwan a omawie kwan no na omachi atutu no wase John Mahama wasrɛ no se woni kan fa abasobode ewo Ghana kwan ho emfa ma na naroda kwakofado anase MPP aban wo wi a watimu abeka ne de no anase ne de no obeye no watoa so na won kasa se ase Ghana kwan road realization no ebi Ghana ha won no ena wakoso ho daye a wode ebra Ghana fo abusua we ene nsema hodo bi a eye owura Asenso anase Honorable Asenso Boakye eye Bantama MP wode soma eye John Mahama na wo ka kire say road realization de MPP dayeso enti so mo so aba no mbeto aso a de pa na government is a continual process na wonya say wo ka say ebi ni Ghana ha na omo NDC amayeku no DB Ghana ha anaso mo di bi eba Ghana ha abusua ensema hodo a egopunu so no yankwe na koko TV ne eba Nsem-Pii TV ye ne na tifo ebesan atwaso
no na juma do so pa na no pay yesaka Professor Godfred Boakye or economist no ye professor so ewo sikasemu tutuemo University of Ghana Legon prof no pay da sipi no mrema wachi
ni no wachi o ni tifo ina mpacho komti sai
yehu adom ye ho ye nim so ho ye pa
yes adom
we dey ye dollar ni esidi se ye ti bi sa che mpampi no aya na dollar no ba dollar no mo na ye mia ye kon na ye su CD sa se no CD no mo asha se mia dollar no kon na ma ye sei yetumi afi ye sesere kakra anya bia ebinim kasa artificial ebinim so kasa reality kwaso kasa bibia antutui a oman no aban no eye na mana kokoba sa wo na wa bro sekasa mu me pa chewo artificial so na mo kan se Donald Trump ne nhihye na ma se dollar no ekofam na ma sidi na gina na
yo mpacho me da se anafe se ye share nia happens here now yentimi nka se artificial there is some intentionality behind it and I would explain the intentionality every two angles. One, fiscal policy. Ushe 2025 budget about present here this year now umukate expenditure significantly. So what that means is that from the fiscal side, no, government is not spending. So from the fiscal side, no, you put the economy on the hold. There is very little pressure when it comes to demand for foreign currency. When it comes to demand for foreign currency, and that is also playing out in terms of import activities. And the demand for foreign currency, not only USD, the demand echo from because government is not spending. And after we share inflows of foreign exchange now, it is favorable to us right now. Favorable if you say gold export akosoro, cocoa export no so yenya bebre wo kakra. And as a share remittances. So remittances is also picking up. And from the previous administration, who said they put in place, and we cannot take it away from them, the Ernest Addison and his people in terms of gold for reserves, and also the management of remittances, fintechs. So this current administration is also building on that. And to share from the inflows, maybe $1 every banner is favorable. And to given that there's subdued expenditure and there's favorable effects, inflows now, government, especially the central bank, is now taking advantage of that favorable situation to drive down the rate. So this is a clear case of dragging it down. If it's purely as a result of transformation in our economy now, in the rate of appreciation, the strengthening of the city, it will be gradual. It will not be this sudden. So this suddenness tells you an intention behind it to drag it down. Now, artificial, where the justification could come from, can we sustain this recovery or strengthening for the foreseeable future? Then the answer will be no. And that is why in Kofo Eka said we need to exercise caution. Next 2 years, when government begins to spend optimally, remember, really they have not started anything. You check on the ground. There is no real expenditure going on right now. In fact, entity tender committees having been operationalized fully across ministries, department, agencies. So we have put the economy on some kind of a medically induced coma. It's USHA 2025 budget now. The Ministry of Finance, they are administering what we call shock therapy. Shock therapy meaning that they are shrinking expenditure. But we also know, government needs to spend to stimulate growth. So at some point, government will start spending. At some point, businesses will start spending. The pressure will begin to build. We will have to resume servicing our debt optimally and operate the economy optimally. And to say this time now, then the city will begin to feel the pressure. So now the question is, do you take advantage of this favorable situation because you have improved cash flows, foreign exchange, subdued expenditure, low import uptake to drag down the rate, or you rather build your reserves for the next 10-15 years and assure market players them never again in the next 2 decades or so will the city depreciate the way it has happened before? So it's a question of the trade-off. And ultimately, the city needs strengthening abnormally is not good for the economy. And that is where I think we should take our minds to. Who there should be a chromo
yes.
Who import to BBA? Nibon or form says I'll be producer. When we say see the way strengthening, the call is on importers of goods to reduce their prices.
Yeah.
Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we comfortable to promote import-dependent economy, or we want to strengthen local production capacity? So if the goal is to promote import-dependent, then let's continue on that path, but that is not sustainable. From November 2023, inflation on locally produced items rose higher than imported inflation, which means to say, we are entrepreneur now. Now, per se, who started business, now producing the beer. And far better say we import rather than producing. Once we are importing, we actually exporting jobs to those countries and importing unemployment into our country. So it's about the right balance. And I believe, with what has happened so far, the central bank and the government probably will slow down on dragging down the rate so that we can build reserves for the future. I think that is the way we should go.
Prof, Yansha, what can send him? Send me and son and me baby son of a what can be said? Send your dollar, see the no air cost no dollar number from no more air cassie artificial. No, say, is this sustainable? And I see no, we am saying no hope.
Yes,
then I will see him to yes, sustainable, don't you?
So who person who judge sustainability alone? Who better say whether the economy is operating at full capacity, government servicing their debt, paying contractors, spending optimally to promote growth. Now, if all these things are in place, now the city is still strengthening now. And when you can say yes, it means that the strengthening is anchored by the fundamentals of the economy. Who share the economy? Especially if you take this government. Since this government came, what transformative effect have we seen from the real sector of the economy? In terms of industrialization, manufacturing, the answer is no. I commend the president that they are launching programs and policies, and the rest of them. At this stage, it's policy launching. The real impact is yet to be felt on the ground. So we cannot say the strengthening is as a result of fundamental shifts or structural shifts in the economy, which is driving the strengthening of the currency. And whether we like it or not, from the beginning of this year to date, Bank of Ghana has injected dollars into the economy in excess of the absorption capacity of the economy in terms of FX utilization. That is the fact. Okay, so you cannot continue on that path. And I think so. You also want to look at it, sir. If the city strengthened on this path sustainably, what would that mean for our export competitiveness and export diversification? What would that mean for tourist spenders who come to Ghana because it will become expensive and all of that? If I look at Bank of Ghana's own report, we don't have significant misalignment on the real effective exchange rate. So it seems to me, sir, Bank of Ghana has an idea of where they want the exchange rate to be so that it will help in fast tracking, in bringing down inflation to the band that they are targeting for this year. So if you are pushing it from the point of view of exchange rate pass through, then you should know the implication of that for the competitiveness of your domestic production capacity. So far, an objective analysis of the situation tells us to say our economy's supply capacity is severely constrained. If that is the case, then you rather need to go for what we call supply-oriented policies that eases the restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy so that local businesses can produce at cheaper rates compared to importing. Otherwise, the substitution effect will be difficult for us to manage if this trend continues. And I think we don't have sufficient reserves to sustain the recovery for the foreseeable future. Okay, finally, Maminka has been told. Hello. Bank of Ghana should be explaining to us how their goal for reserves and the gold board and all that is going on is promoting responsible mining. Are they buying the gold for responsible artisanal small-scale miners? Or gold board and all that is going on is promoting responsible gold reserves. We cannot destroy our future just to sustain the city. Because if we continue on this path with the distraction to our environment, water bodies and the rest of them, 8 years, 10 years from now, we will be weeping. There is no joy in that. We need to move gradually from environmentally destructive growth model to a more greener, sustainable, so that we turn this existential threat to existential opportunity. I feel for Ghana. In the next 8 to 10 years, you watch and see where Ghana will be. If we continue on this destructive growth model of destroying our environment in the name of gold and the rest of them, yes, of course, it is offering stability to the currency. Do you know the trade-off? Have we calculated the environmental impact and the rest of them? So we need to take a holistic look. It's not about rejoicing today. What happens in the future and the rest of them? I think that is a concern. Sometimes the problem is that we are a bit more short-term in thinking. This is our problem. So, but what the market needs is sustainability for long. Okay, so that people can plan for long. This is second quarter. If you introduce these disruptions, it's not really good for planning and the rest of them. Politically, it may be good to say we have checked the box, but is it good optimally for the economy in terms of export, in terms of competitiveness of your local productive capacity and all of that? So I think those are the things that we need to take a critical look.
Prof, what you may say that's now what the Bakuki to say, you bet you take advantage of the previous administration and maybe 2 years, one district, one factory, one D, one F. Would you say, maybe I was saying, it's an opportune time for us to take advantage of this idea, Niameku Nanka, yet to me as Shesa, Mukina, that you have Boama, said the Awokan local production, et you may Jiran and Ansama importation about Fomana.
Yes, I agree. Previous government or more initiatives now they are better. Meanwhile, the state would have made considerable investments in those areas. And my advice, and it's just an advice, they don't need to take it. My advice would be that they should take a critical look at the economic development instruments like 1D, 1F, planting for food and jobs. let's analyze it carefully. Let's see where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, so we can build on the strengths and overcome the weaknesses, take advantage of the opportunities, reinforce the threats from it and the rest of them, instead of going to start things all over again and all of that. Of course, we've made some progress in the area of one district, one factory. I have looked at it and the rest of them. In fact, even if you look at the supply chain mechanism, even with planting for food and jobs, we could have done far better. We all know that. But we can leverage on some learning curve that we've built from that. Now, you consolidate it at the end of the day, because some businesses genuinely have benefited from 1D, 1F, and the rest of them. And I think sustainability is what they are asking for. So that the idea that anytime there's a regime change, then businesses rise and collapse with regimes, political victimization. Now they are doing in home here. Okay. You saw Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia, right? Mm-hmm. How many party general secretaries and chairmen did he go with? He went with business people. They are signing deals regardless of their political affiliations. Billions of dollars that is coming to American businesses and firms. The essence of those businesses. There should be no fear and uncertainty among indigenous private sectors. As to say, what will happen to my business? So, because of that, businesses are spending so much on political risk diversification. I need to be here. I need to be here because I don't know what will happen to my business. No, I think we need to move away from that. And I believe that the president is mindful of this. I see that from his body language. And I think he needs to ensure that all the people he's working with fully understand the vision of the president to carry every Ghanaian along.